All right, guys, back to another live show. We're gonna hang out tonight and stuff, have a little fun. All right, should be good to go. All right, I was like, I don't think I'm muted or anything. Yeah, yeah, we're just gonna have a chill stream, hang out. Didn't plan on doing it and stuff tonight, but things changed and stuff earlier, and so I was like, might as well just jump on and invite some of you guys on if you guys want to come on and hang out, chill out a little bit, talk about a couple things that has, I guess, recently happened and stuff in the Bigfoot community. Like the passing of Jeff Meldrum, of course, and maybe some other topics and discussions and stuff like that might be on your mind or drifting around the community. So there's the link. I'm just kind of showing you guys on the stream, but there's the link and stuff, so you guys can hop on, jump on, talk about, I guess, pretty much whatever. I mean, whatever's on your mind and stuff, since I don't really have anything planned per se. And, those videos and stuff we showed last time with the bear attacks and stuff, the reason why the stream was cut and stuff is actually not because of the second video, the intro. It was actually because the first video with the black bear we seen, YouTube didn't like it. I don't think it's the original owner, but that channel that was doing the claim, or YouTube's doing the claim, or whatever. So I didn't fight it, but I got a different one on the second one, and I'm going to fight that one. And these frivolous fair use claims, basically, we're not able to make commentary on the videos that we use, or use it for educational purposes or safety purposes, or relate it to Bigfoot purposes, which I made a pretty big paragraph about that. So, it didn't work on the first one, but I didn't push it too hard. But the second one, if they really want to take me to court over this kind of stuff, then I guess we will. Because at the end of the day, it is fair use and stuff. YouTube's policy of fair use is not the law standard of fair use. They're pretty cutthroat about protecting other people's content. But there's a mainstream, I guess you would say, like influencers or content creators that all I do is give commentary, or they use clips from other people and talk about it and stuff like that. So it's kind of hogwash. Because smaller channels, because if you're a smaller channel, you don't have much say and feedback. But if you're a bigger channel, big stream, you can get away with a lot more stuff, like this fair use commentary on videos and all that. So looks like we're pretty good. So yeah, we're just hanging out and stuff. Pretty much just got done doing a couple stuff and work and chores and all that, but stacking firewood and getting that stuff ready for winter, and then going through some audio, a little bit of audio and stuff. Nothing too crazy yet. Didn't find nothing too crazy yet, but going through some of the audio and recent stuff. The one where actually the button to flip up to record was pushed down when I got it. So I was taking a look at that, diving into that a little bit more, about halfway through. So, but I did notice that it didn't record the full weekend. So again, it's only one day. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the button was pushed after the recording was already, like, off or died or whatever, or if the button was pushed during the recording, which would be super sweet. But other than that, we're pretty much just going to hang out and stuff. If someone wants to join, don't be too afraid. You can always, hide your face and stuff and talk like this. And, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little Bigfoot story maybe you have, maybe something you've seen online. There's a lot of craziness going on with, Bigfoots in bushes, and draw circles on anything. Or I think I just seen a picture I didn't save it or anything, but basically, there's this picture by a pretty well known person. I think if I remember their name correctly, one of these woo people that took a picture and it's like a circle around a little shrub or little something that's basically um like this big, and one of the comments was like it's the world's smallest Bigfoot because they're adamant. Oh yeah, there's a face there. There's someone a Bigfoot watching me or whatever kind of bullshit story is attached to the photo because anyone can grab their little phone and take a picture of the bush and then magically start seeing faces and patterns. So yeah, so that's kind of what I kind of seen around, and of course with Jeff Meldrum's passing, pretty sad and stuff. So if someone wants to come on and talk about that, we can. I mean, I seen it and stuff, and then I shared it, but it's pretty sad, especially well, especially since I think there's just really unexpected. A lot of people, I would assume, as old as he was, he looked like he was in generally pretty good health. I mean, he was always still getting out to the conferences and going out there and doing stuff. So just to hear what happened, it's pretty surprising, I would say. Um, I actually have met Jeff Meldrum when he came to Michigan at one of the late Phil Shaw, one of his conferences that he had. Actually, the first conference I went to here in Michigan was the Phil Shaw conference, and they had Cliff Brackman and they had Jeff Meldrum there headlining it. And then that's where I met James actually and stuff. Was there and talked to Cliff and stuff, showing them pictures and stuff. And didn't get to talk to Meldrum one-on-one as much as I did with Cliff, but was able to stand around and listen to him talk and give his presentation and stuff, of course. And I'd always planned to show him, try to talk to him a little bit more and show him some stuff. But unfortunately, that it's not going to happen now. So, which is really unfortunate and stuff because I think it leaves a lot of unanswered questions, especially some on some of the stuff that he was working with, and evidence that people sent him, like hair samples, foot casts, stuff that he was like multi-year long projects and stuff. Kind of, I guess, maybe left in the limbo right now. I'm not sure really, where all that kind of stuff's going. I know just because there's personal people I know who have sent him hair samples and stuff like that, and not really sure on what's going to be the status on all of that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's a plethora of different kind of evidence that people have sent him and stuff that he has and stuff he was working on, notes, and of course everything that was up in the head, it's all gone and stuff too. So we're, hopefully something becomes of that, research that's kept behind closed doors, that's at home, that's, in his office, stuff that wasn't, online, stuff that wasn't presented to the public and stuff that, he was working on privately. So, it would be a shame for all that to go to waste and not be, read and looked at and, whatever we could find there, whatever's there, it should, help to the community and help explain and try to figure out what the Bigfoot enigma is. So to see it all basically get thrown in a box and stuffed in an attic or get thrown in the trash and thrown away, it'd be pretty sad and stuff. It's nothing good's going to come out of that. No, nothing useful is going to be, able to be used from it. So it's one of those things that we hope someone with a good mindset and understanding of the subject and how much it, meant, we can use some of that stuff for the better. So, but you never know, it's just one of those unfortunate things, with a lot of the death and craziness that's going on and stuff, a lot of stuff's going on. So This is one of those things that hit our community a little bit closer to home and stuff, with a lot of people who've met Jeff, and um, I have a lot of good things to say about him. So, again, if anyone wants to show up, join, come in and talk, you don't have to show your face. By all means, just click on this little tab. It will set you up with the restream. Put your little name in. You don't even have to have a photo, but if you got a photo ready to go and stuff, you can snazz it all up and come and join. Talk about what you want. If you want to talk about the Bigfoot community, cryptids, whatever, or maybe even some of the stuff that's been happening around and lately in the news, I guess we can talk about all that kind of stuff because it's just chill stream stuff. Nothing's really off the table, I suppose, as long as we're not going like ravenous mad at each other in some like heated argument and stuff. That that wouldn't be chill, right? That's not a chill stream. So, but yeah, we can come on and talk about whatever. But it'd be a lot easier and be a lot more chill if someone else was on here to bounce stuff off of. So, but so yeah, I just wanted to come out and hang out and stuff. Being a Friday and stuff. Yeah, it's been kind of a day and stuff. Actually, a long day doing this, waiting around and stuff, and out stacking wood a little late, but yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Got some push-ups in today. We're getting our goals ready to go for December. I think we're gonna hit it out of the park, actually. So, because if you're out in the woods looking for Bigfoot, or just out in the woods, and you're a couch potato and you're not doing your push-ups, you're not exercising, doing anything, you really try to go into any difficult terrain, and you're gonna end up hurting yourself, spraining something. The likelihood of that happening is dramatically reduced if you exercise now, get stronger now, strengthen everything. No matter what your age is, you can always do something. Just because that's good for you and it's better. And if you're out in the woods, trust me, if you're out in the woods, out in the dark, flashlights, things are around you, adrenaline's pumping, you're not really always paying attention to things that are on the ground next to you and stuff. Sometimes you're feeling around with your foot. Sometimes you have to step awkwardly, turn angles. Especially if you're on a creek bed or somewhere slippery on rocks that just rain and stuff, you can easily slip and hurt yourself. So being strong, strengthening yourself with exercise will help you prevent the injuries from falling and spraining and slipping and breaking stuff. Most importantly, stuff too, And that's how a lot of people get stranded and hurt and really lose their lives out in the wilderness too. If you get lost and stuff, all of a sudden you hurt yourself, you're not able to walk and maneuver. I mean, you become super vulnerable and very unlikely to survive even a basic warm night in the summer, depending on where you're at. It can still get down to, hypothermic levels. So if you're not strong enough, even with enough willpower in your body stuff, hypothermic levels doesn't even have to be cold enough to kill you and stuff, but it can kill certain people. If you aren't strong enough, you can succumb to those conditions, especially multi-day or and an ordeal. You definitely, the stronger you are, the more exercise you get in. If you're in an ordeal where it's a survival situation, life or death, your body's going to perform a lot better, able to take a lot of things, have more endurance and stuff in those situations. There was a missing person here that just got rescued in Michigan. She was a part of some YouTube survival contest reality, filming stuff. They were up in a pretty squatchy area where we've been to and stuff, and got lost. I guess got separated from the other people and got lost, and had to have rescue teams come in there and get her. And yeah, it's an area you definitely could get lost, and if you're not able, I guess she wasn't able to get out. She was hanging out in the swamp for some reason. Probably went around in circles, and it's very dangerous and treacherous. And But it's not like you're dropped off the middle of the remote Alaska and frontier where there's no one and miles and miles and miles from you. I mean, she was 30 miles from somewhere, the road, somewhere, someone. So, but in that same situation, it just goes to show that even a person who I'm sure had some survival skills and stuff being on this contest, got lost, got panicked and stuff, and really needed help, and luckily was able to get found thanks to the crew people and other people around her, because she wasn't by herself, to help get her rescued and stuff. So if you were by yourself and stuff and no one really knew where you were and you just never came and checked in when you were supposed to check in, hopefully the people around you who you're supposed to check in with will alert their authorities to go look for you, because if they're like, well, they'll be okay for another day or two. Well, that's another day or two you're out there before they even get the search ready for you. So if you're supposed to, go look for Bigfoot, and it's like, hey, if I don't come back at this time, or I don't check in, or I'm, this much late, you should probably call some people, kind of a thing. Because if that person waits, all day, it's like, well, he didn't come around today, that's 12 hours or more of you being out in a survival situation, stranded, or, you never know the situation. You could have an animal attack, you could stumble and fall. There's lots of different reasons and unfortunate events, and people go missing all the time. So it doesn't even have to be under strange circumstances. It can just be a normal, simple thing. Little mistake, simple fall. You didn't bring enough water. Now all of a sudden you're lost. Now you don't have any water. You didn't bring any water. Don't really have anything. And now that's a bad situation. At least if you are geared up, ready to go, you kind of have some survival stuff, a backpack and some supplies, your survival chances increase dramatically. But if you go out there, you don't even have a water bottle. And now all of a sudden you're lost and you're thirsty, and what are you going to do? So there's a bunch of things that, you got to learn and try to keep up on. It's not just about looking for Bigfoot. It's, bad stuff can happen out there. There's a lot of situations. You don't even have to be armed and stuff, but like we talked about in these last two live shows, being armed with a pretty good, weapon and stuff can, you can easily take down some pretty good stuff as long as you're accurate and stuff. And we talked about, different calibers for the bears and stuff, and the bigger the revolver and bigger the caliber and stuff, the harder it is to stay accurate and stabilize as you're shooting something that would be charging you, like a Sasquatch or a bear, as we try to use those videos to relate to. We don't have videos of a Bigfoot charging people, but we have plenty of videos of bears charging people and being shot at in self-defense, so we can relate what a Bigfoot might do and how it might look and seem and possibly react based on the pound per pound similarities from a big grizzly bear or brown bears compared to Sasquatches, relatively the same weight mass ratio. So definitely, we have big bear handguns and rifle calibers and shotguns. A good 12 gauge shotgun, with proper loading, can take on all the bears that we have in North America. So, but with the adrenaline flowing and rushing, and you're in the brush, depending on where you're at, if you're in the literal brush with bushes, a big rifle, you're not going to be able to turn and swing and move around if it's hitting all the sticks and twigs in front of your face, and you literally can't turn the rifle. Having a pistol, a big bore pistol, something that's going to be able to shoot through the brush too. If you have small caliber pistols and stuff, you're not going to be really shooting through all that much twigs as much as you think before the bullet actually deviates and it becomes inaccurate. So, plus you have a big, massive creature coming at you like a Sasquatch or a bear, you're already probably not going to be able to hit the side of a barn. Because it's scary and stuff. It's flowing and that thing's moving, and especially with the Sasquatch, it could be doing all sorts of different kind of tactics than what a bear would be doing. A bear would just charge straight at you. Sometimes they bluff and they turn and they run away and stuff, and they might circle around. But a Sasquatch might be a little bit more intelligent, use a little bit more tactics, might start throwing stuff at you, might circle around. You know, might we just don't know and stuff, and that's kind of a scary situation. I think most of the time they would try to ambush you and take you out, um, instead of a direct conflict and stuff. These Sasquatches are mostly ambush predators when it comes to actual hunting, and it depends and stuff. But there are lots of stories from a lot and data from reliable sources of these things laying down in swamps, half submerged, breathing out with just their mouth and nostrils and half a face and stuff, laying down in the swamp and then reaching out and grabbing stuff as they come by, or standing there acting like a tree and stuff. The quality of standing there still, not being seen, and being as stealthy as they are, grabbing stuff and hurting it, killing it, facing a human is a lot easier and a lot less dangerous than a full out screaming confrontation charge full blast into the human where he's going to pump some rounds into me. I'm sure they've observed what guns are and what humans can do, and I'm sure, have tactics that they employ so they try not to get shot. Like all these other animals that they know, when they shoot they aim the boomstick at this thing, it drops, it dies, something happens. They don't really have to understand the full mechanics to understand, once they have this thing, this item, the boomstick, they, wherever they point that out, it's going to be pretty bad. So why would they announce themselves by screaming and yelling and charging directly at you? They scream and yell to let you know and scare you. It's a lot of tactics to scare you out, to spook you out, without even being seen. And that's a great tactic without a physical confrontation, right? If they can just throw a rock and they can creep over here and make some vocalizations and scare you out of the woods without even having to fight you, that's a win-win scenario. Because even if they had to sneak up and grab you and do all that, just brings more people in. And there's a potential chance that, it's not a successful sneak attack and you turn around and you blast them, or, whatever, So the simple act and tactic of scaring people out of the woods and hurting them and stuff is probably so successful that's, there's almost no need to do anything else, because it usually works on most average people, unless you're, a Sasquatch researcher. Then you're like, oh, let me go in that direction. And then I think there's probably a little different dynamic that goes on with, the people actually actively looking for them versus hunters who have guns. Usually we carry flashlights and have different items. So, but Sasquatches are definitely equipped and have tactics and intelligence to be able to take down humans and stuff, relatively easily, like most predators or big animals. It's not relatively hard to take us out, especially if you stack on the weight of hundreds and hundreds of pounds, or 1,200 pounds, 1,000 pounds, 800 pounds, doesn't matter. That's a huge amount of weight compared to an average human. Be tossed around, smashed, you have one of these things accidentally fall on you, you're going to get hurt. It's not going to take much. So if they actually actively go after you, which there are some reports of them going after hunters and attacking people. Old newspapers have wild men attacking people, trying to choke them, and bodies are found with broken necks and stuff in old newspapers of old farmers, and bent. A broken neck with a farmer found with a bent gun. The barrel of the gun is bent like a horseshoe, kind of a thing. And, these things I'm sure would They have hands and stuff. They would grab and stuff and shake and probably, snap the neck, which is very easy for a human. Again, we're nowhere near the size and weight ratio, muscle mass of a Sasquatch. So for them just to grab us and to shake us a little bit and the head kind of pops off a little bit or snaps or gets severed from the spine, it doesn't take that much effort. Same thing with a deer and stuff. And there's reports of them going after and killing bulls in bull pens by breaking their necks or ripping big gouges and basically ripping their heads off and stuff like that. There's actually quite a few different livestock supposed, again, but these are from a reliable source and stuff where horses are impaled on trees and stuff, and some pretty graphic stuff. So if it was a one-on-one fight with a bull in its prime versus a Sasquatch in its prime, and the Sasquatch basically kills the bull, breaks the bull, rips its head off, and stuff like that, that's powerful. That's pretty crazy. If it was multiple Sasquatches versus the bull, I mean, that doesn't seem like that's much of a fair fight, and that seems like, yeah, that could be possible. Because, with tactics and multiple Sasquatches like these running around and grabbing on the horns and stuff, that's not much of a fair fight. But a single big Sasquatch versus a big bull, that's power versus power. That's a big struggle and stuff, And if a Sasquatch is able to hold its own and grab the horns and twist and, break the neck of a bull, longhorn bulls and stuff, that what do you think it's able to do with you if it wants to? We were out there walking around with a flashlight, stumbling around over your own feet, and full grown male about 8 foot plus, having that much power. What do you think it would be able to do to you if it really wanted to and stuff? And that's the scary part. That's why, these things, as much as we try to paint them in a fun and friendly family activity, the reality is you wouldn't do the same activity if it was a grizzly bear or a polar bear. You wouldn't, invite the whole family and grandma and your kids to go out looking and try to photograph a polar bear as close as you could in the wild, or a grizzly bear in the wild, right? That's not a family fun activity, but Bigfoot is the family fun activity, brings everyone outdoors and stuff like that. Well, there's a darker side reality to this, that even if it is, it doesn't have to be a nefarious woo side, but being if they're just a hominin or a greater ape, usually bigger species of apes like chimpanzees and even gorillas have been observed eating chimpanzees, especially eating other smaller monkeys and hunting them and stuff. And there are reports of Indians being eaten, and there's actually old newspapers from the 1900s here in Michigan of hunters being disappeared and being remains found in caves and footprints being found, and some pretty incredible stuff, actually. Some wild stuff. So even if these things, even if you think they are intelligent and they're an ape, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not on the food chain, especially if they're an older individual, the individual's hurt, they're angry at people or whatever situation they're living in. You might become on the menu, and usually it's the case for older predators, with missing teeth, claws. They're not able to hunt deer, hunt their normal food. Humans start becoming the easy source of food and protein, especially when they realize how easy it is, how soft our skin is compared to the tougher hides of animals, softer bones to crunch in compared to all animals on this planet. Yeah, and so it's it can be kind of scary. It can be like life threatening. And you might, like in my case, when I got yelled at, I shot a gun at a possum getting in the trash, shot a gun, trying to shoot coyotes. You can shoot a gun at nighttime at a raccoon that's trying to kill your chickens. And all of a sudden, I had this Sasquatch screaming and yelling at me, about ready to come down and show me what's up. And that female was basically telling him to stop, think about it, whatever in their samurai talk, sing song language. As they're coming closer, basically this Sasquatch is going to come kick my ass because I pissed him off, and his wife, girlfriend, whatever, telling him, please don't, whatever. But, as an American, as a, nighttime predator hunter, and small game animals that are getting in your trash and, killing chickens and stuff like that, these are normal activities that all of a sudden you cross that line, and that the Sasquatch over here is pissed off, and all of a sudden you're in a very dangerous situation. And it didn't matter if I had the gun or not. He was pissed off anyways. He was coming closer. So you never know. You never know. All right, guys. Got a couple people watching and stuff. I kind of expected it wasn't going to be like super big and stuff. I haven't been advertising enough, and this is kind of just late, so. I should have probably muted that and been a little bit more professional. But you know how it is here. We're just having fun. It's a chill stream. So you guys can come on. The link is to join, is to in the chat and stuff. I'm surprised no one's actually talking, giving questions and stuff. I must not have the regular chatters up in here, but that's okay. I appreciate everyone who's sticking around and watching, hearing me talk to myself and to you guys and stuff about the Bigfoot subject and topics and all this other stuff, because I love it. I enjoy it, and we're getting ready to put on this conference. It's this year's a little different. Actually, we're gonna have it set up kind of like a little kind of museum kind of dealio, and their tables with different setups, and I gotta order some bunch of footprint cast still, and patty and all this other stuff. Some of the more legit ones, and have their stores behind it, and so it's kind of more like a museum, kind of smaller style exhibit with different stories and newspaper clippings and really good photos and evidence from legit sources and stuff, not like Todd Standing stuff. But and then of course we're going to have me talk about different, like, of the different displays, the Native American stuff or early Bigfoot history here in Michigan, and maybe even some European stuff, because they had a lot of different European stuff. But so basically, be a big couple hours of me talking about that stuff while displays are going on and stuff like that. So it's a free event and stuff. So next year probably will be a little different. We might have a couple more speakers and stuff. But this year, I kind of decided to do things a little bit different and see how it goes and stuff. It'll be a little different than a typical conference and stuff like that, and the same atmosphere, same a lot of people come network, file out reports and stuff, and go camping and stuff with us. Also, get the details, go camping afterwards, of course, as we look for a Bigfoot in the Bigfoot Sasquatch area. So that'll be pretty interesting. Got a couple people already going to go and do that. So yeah, it'll be a free event, try to give back and stuff, because it's not really. So I'm just laughing. I'm laughing at Ryan. He's a good guy and stuff. Took me a minute to figure out. Yeah, I think I shaved today. I had a little fuller beard and stuff. I actually used to have longer hair. It's getting a little longer again. But yeah, look a little different. I'm getting a little bit more fit stuff. Doing a shit ton more push-ups and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Feel good and stuff. I'm doing good and stuff. Feel happy, dude. To feel good to be doing the show and stuff. I want to try to get a lot more back into it and stuff. I know I've been out of the loop a little bit, especially when I took a couple months off. But yeah, I'm still always going out in the woods and having fun. Really keeping it to myself, actually. Mainly trying to improve myself, get exercise in. Got other things going on, with life and career wise, and doing all good things and stuff. So um, that's about it, really. Having fun, chilling. I don't know about that. I ain't gonna get super crazy, but I am trying to get in the best shape and be the best version of myself that I can be and stuff. Um, that is all I can say. I'm really only in competition with myself and trying to better and improve myself. So that's about it. I'm feeling good and having fun, man. Doing what I love and get to share Bigfoot stuff and having fun, this positivity with everyone else too on a Friday night. Might as well have a little fun doing it. Even though there's been a lot of tragedy and craziness going on and stuff, you always got to try to be positive and have good energy and get a little exercise and stuff. It definitely does feel good. Feels good to be able to, feel a little strong and stuff. It feels good. It's good for you. It's not good to be a couch potato and not do anything. So yeah, I mean it's September 12th. It seems like this year summer is like, flew by and stuff, Next year it'll be October. The anniversary of Patty already, Patterson Film. We have my birthday there. There's a couple birthdays in September and stuff. You know, having a lot of fun, getting out in the woods, hunting season, bow season. So yeah, I'm excited. I usually enjoy this kind of this season and stuff. The pre-fall season, fall season. The leaves change, they fall off. It's a different environment than the summer season, especially when you're out Sasquatching. Here in Michigan, at least, you know, you can't really even see, 20 yards in front of you. You can't really, you can't see too much, especially at nighttime without a flashlight. But the leaves drop and stuff, everything opens up. Oh man, you're able to see just everything, and you feel a lot, at more ease that you're not able to be snuck up on as easily compared to during the summer months where this thing could be creeping up to bush to bush to bush to bush and following you. You don't know, and it's a lot more intense when you got bushes and bushes you can't see 10 feet in front of you, depending on the environment, even less. So yeah, this year's been definitely flying by, man. Yeah, so you got an October birthday and stuff. Good old October birthdays and stuff. Yeah, I feel it. Time's just flying by, and but what can you do? You gotta have fun and enjoy yourself, and yeah, that's why I say you gotta try to be positive and exercise and try to figure out what you want to do. Have little goals, have little hobbies, no matter what age you are, no matter how successful or wherever you're at. It's always good to have little goals and little things going on, little hobbies, even if it's really nerdy and stuff. It's awesome to have favorite movies and characters and stuff. Like Godzilla, he's awesome. King Kong's awesome and stuff. A big fan of those kind of themes and movies and the older older 1960s and 50s Godzilla and stuff. It's so dorky and so hilarious and stuff that, it's enjoyable and stuff. You got to have good hobbies and stuff like that, and not be stuck on the news and stuck on stuff that's not fulfilling and funny or fills you with joy and stuff. There's a lot of crappy stuff out there that can really drain you and stuff. So, especially if you have kids and loved ones and stuff like that, spend time with them, enjoy that, enjoy the stuff that you enjoy, brings you happiness. Yeah, that's not why. That's not why I mentioned it at all. I don't know why I would ever have thought that you liked Godzilla. You got quite the collection, actually. I'm pretty jealous. Actually, it looks pretty sweet. Um, but yeah. So I mean, especially now and stuff when you have all this death and drama and craziness, and really just you got to spend time with your family and or whoever you have, and if you don't really have anyone, spend time and take care of yourself. Make sure that you're doing good. And I think there's a lot of people that don't deal with some of the things that they have to deal with on their own and by themselves, or if they're always in a crowd and stuff. You really don't get to spend a lot of time on yourself if you're constantly just here and there and with everyone else. And to talk about mostly the relationship with your friends and stuff, not necessarily your family and kids and stuff. That's different, but you should always spend time with your family and stuff, especially the older people that you have in your life. Time is not going to be slowing down, and it's not going to be going in reverse. So yeah, that's pretty sweet, man. That is pretty sweet. I don't have a collection and stuff a little bit like that. I got a couple Bigfoot things and signs and some stuff around. And I'll show you what I got. Shake off the stuff that he has, but I have this old Goku guy. This is an old walkie-talkie from I want to say like 1998, 1999 stuff. So it's pretty vintage and stuff. And it was like in a box forever, and I just came across it, and I was like, you know what? I might as well just put this on my desk. So it's one of these old walkie-talkie vintage things that they had back in the day. I had this one. I had like Frieza and Piccolo, and I had all the guys. And then I have I'm pretty proud of this. I got this old Hulk character with my name on it. My mom put my name on it because I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want other kids stealing it. And this is the original Hulk guy. He came with a big this was from the TV series that they had the late 90s, that and stuff that I was hooked on. And that's the original batteries that are still working, that are still in the toy. That are still they still work. And so I put them on my desk, I put I had a bunch of old hair bands and stuff, and stuff that I put on him, like little bracelets, like the one I got from the She Squatchers. I know it's in reverse. You guys can't see it. I used to have the 168 on there, but I wore it and ripped it, and now I put it in. It's stored away, basically, so it's not on display. But I have that, around his arms and stuff. So yeah, I definitely enjoy it. That's what I'm kind of saying. Actually, I'll show you without breaking and doing anything. I actually found this at a thrift store and stuff, and this is the Woman of the Woods, with the whistling of the lips, and basically a female Sasquatch and stuff, right? So this is carved into a piece of wood that someone basically was throwing away, and I got it for real cheap because they didn't know. Even the lady I was checking out, she was looking at me like, the heck is this thing? And I had to explain to her, what the woman of the woods was, what a Sasquatch legends and stuff was, and basically, usually with the woman of the woods, depending on where you're at, but usually she had a basket, like Ryan has mentioned, the basket ogress. She would have a basket on her, and she'd kidnap people. She'd kidnap kids, and she'd throw her in this basket. And some tribes would call her an ogre, an ogress. In some southwestern tribes, this woman of the woods was as tall as the pine trees. So not necessarily Bigfoot, and depending on where you were, or she was able to grow to gigantic sizes of 100 to 200 feet tall. But a lot of the women of the woods, the whistling woman of the woods, that has the basket, she steals the kids, and it's kind of the boogeyman story. But there are kind of some other stories of native traditions where they say they used to trade with the Sasquatch, but they would teach the Sasquatch, try to teach the Sasquatches how to weave baskets and to do sewing and stuff. But the Sasquatches, I guess, with their hands and digits, are not dexterous enough to weave baskets. So the natives would actually weave the baskets for the Sasquatches and trade them. But the Sasquatches began to kidnap people and throw them into the baskets and stuff. These would be big backpack baskets to put stuff in. They would kidnap people and do that. And these certain tribesmen and villages got really pissed off and put a stop to it, went to war, and stopped making these baskets for them and stuff. So, but in some of these, older stories in Boogeyman, they have the baskets on their back and they're stealing people until basically we've had enough, and they stopped making baskets for them. They couldn't make baskets on their own. Maybe that's why there's no modern reports of a Sasquatch with baskets on their back or anything, because they just don't know how to make it. And the last of them that probably maybe got passed down are old and broken and don't work anymore. This goes in the similar stories where, when they're kidnapping people and stuff, they are said to put chewed up pine sap onto the eyes to like glue your eyes shut and become really sticky. And, they take your shoes off and stuff so you can't run and walk because, you're not used to it and stuff, and cut your feet up real bad. And there was a report, I can't remember where, if it came out of, I think Washington or Idaho, an old newspaper report of these hunters are prospectors or hunters finding a crazed man in the woods, a different prospector who was crazed and stuff, and basically ravenous and stuff, and told them the story that this female, basically a female Sasquatch, took him and kidnapped him and brought him into this place where there was this big dugout pit. Threw him into the pit. Was trying to make him her boyfriend or do something with him, and trying to feed him, domesticate him, kind of a thing. And he was kind of refusing and stuff, and would try to escape, to the point where she sat there and started to lick the palms of his hands until they were raw, and lick the bottom of his feet until they were raw. So when he tried to climb up the pit, they were so raw and busted up that they would hurt. And he wasn't able to escape until finally he was basically so crazed and out of his mind that he climbed out of the pit, bleeding, his hands and stuff bleeding, and got to these people and died after this. Was so unable to recover and stuff, being in that situation as a prisoner and stuff, probably malnourished, escaping, and then the journey, and then all of it and stuff. So that was reported in an old newspaper. It just really makes you think, like, That's a pretty crazy thing, especially if that's an old newspaper where they didn't have Sasquatch stories. There wasn't a reason to make up this Sasquatch stories because Sasquatch wasn't a well-known thing. And it is a little scary to think about, a Sasquatch that would literally do that. I mean, how many, apparently it is like a tiger licking a big cat licking and stuff. Their tongues are filled with such roughness and stuff that they can actually lick and kick skin off. And apparently that's kind of what happened and stuff. Sit there and took all the skin and made the palms of his hands and feet so raw he wasn't able to climb out of the pit and escape. I mean, that's pretty sadistic and an intelligent way to solve the problem of, man, this guy keeps trying to freaking climb up and get out and stuff. What am I going to do? Well, I know this trick. It's like, well, where'd you learn that from? How many other, prospects did you try for your little proposal? And we do have other stories from Native Americans of them stealing women, or I believe in the Southwest, an Apache tribe or a was it Apache or Comanche or Cheyenne or one of those, not exactly sure, one of those Southwestern tribes where they had a 5 foot tall Bigfoot, basically, that would come in, and he would talk to the chief of the village and ask for the daughters of the whoever he wanted to marry, to do whatever with. If there was a particular brave who wanted to challenge him for that woman and stuff, they would fight. And usually this 5 foot tall Sasquatch would win and took all the women and stuff, and as their wives and stuff, is what the story would. You don't know what happened to all these women and stuff, but supposedly as his wife. Well, what do you do with your wife? You usually have a family and stuff. Well, the Sasquatch was only 5 foot tall, super strong, able to kill braves and stuff, but was communicating with the chief and stuff for a proposal at first. And then if he didn't get his way, well, he took them, or the chief could negotiate, which is, what do you explain that? Is that it doesn't seem like a normal kind of great ape kind of a thing where it's, it's a monkey out there, it's a gorilla, it's communicating and it's able to communicate in that native language and its own language. So I'm not sure if exactly what the name of that they used to call that particular Sasquatch, but it seemed like these are older stories passed down, so these would be a couple hundreds of years old, 100 to a couple years, 100 years old, back when they were first reported and wrote down, usually in the 1800s, early 1900s, or 1700s and stuff, some cases. So these are usually older than having horses and stuff, especially in the Southwest and stuff. So kind of like the Lovelock Cave story. When they talk about the Lovelock Cave story, there's a massive amount of period of war, years long, decades long war, potentially even 100-year long or more longer war, conflict of these giants around the Lovelock Cave area. The Lovelock Cave story of the giants being pushed into the cave is like the very ending of this giant war, and they're the very almost last battle where they pushed them all into the cave. They had stories of back when that before that became a desert, there was a massive lake that was said to be there and luscious and stuff. They have stories of the giants being around and their people being around when the lake was there, fighting these groups of people until they had a big flotation device or boats and rafts and stuff, and they went out to the middle of the lake. These big giants did, and stuff. And basically the Paiute and these other tribes eventually surrounded the lake. And eventually, when the flotilla of these giants would come closer to the shores, the Native Americans would shoot arrows at them and shoot arrows at them and shoot arrows at them. So apparently, then they escaped from being in the middle of the lake back onto the land, and then they were eventually driven into the Lovelock Cave. They were trying to retreat up to that way. They had already, I guess, it was a home or a storage place for the giants, because they had archaeological people have found the sandals and the duck decoys. Some of the oldest duck decoys in North America actually come from that site. And there's other stories and other tribes of those giants in the Lovelock area where they talk about this great war of their ancient people and the giants and stuff. It was like all the tribes of the land, all the humans got tired of these giants eating them, and they said that they were cannibals. Like they were cannibals in terms of they were eating us humans because they were almost humans enough that you could call them cannibals, but also they were said to eat their own dead. So where their own dead were slain and stuff in battle, they would take their own dead and supposedly eat them. That's what the tribe said, that they would eat their own dead. Could be religious purposes. We don't know. There are cases of human ritualistic cannibalism, like in Papua New Guinea, of your older relatives, and of course many more examples of killing your enemy and cannibalizing a particular part or the whole body or whatever, drinking the blood or painting your face with the blood is sometimes whatever, whatever kind of religious kind of ritual that represents to a Sasquatch, or they are just bloodthirsty homicidal maniacs that should be destroyed, which is pretty much what a lot of Native Americans, especially in that Lovelock area, decided. They decided that these people are so bloodthirsty, so demonically evil, that they have to be wiped out and exterminated. There is no leaving them alone, be tolerant. No, not just the Paiute tribes, but all the tribes of that area decided to band together to kill these giants because they were that evil. And I think it is Navajo. They have a story, and they talk about the Anasazi, the tribes, the tribe of people that lived in the cliff top dwellings of their huts and their homes made out of brick and stuff. They just disappeared one day. The Navajo, there's this one guy, old chieftain on YouTube right now. He makes videos, different variety of different videos. He talks about that these people were evil and stuff, that his people and other tribes went to war with these people because they were, again, engaged in these evil ritualistic practices that were not good, and all these other tribes have had enough and wiped them out. And same thing with this. Now, they weren't giants. This native chief never describes that those people were giants, but he does describe that they were an evil people. And compared to them or their neighbors who were our fellow, even that they're enemy tribes, Navajo fighting with the Arapaho, the Apache. I think there's a couple other ones over there. Omaha. There's a bunch of others, and I have to look at my map to figure it out because I keep the placements of all of them, kind of gets jumbled up. But basically, even though they had enemies that they would go to war with and talk bad about, they never depicted them as evil, cannibalistic evil people that needed to be exterminated without holding back. That's what was just typically described with, I want to say, the Anasazi the tribe that lived in the those clifftop dwellings where they all of a sudden they just disappeared. Kind of talked about like the ant people and stuff like that too, coming out of the caves, coming onto the surface of the earth. They have teachings about that too, but they typically don't depict their fellow tribes or brothers, tribes, even their enemies, as these evil, wicked people that should have been exterminated, like the giants. Which really tells you something and stuff, especially when you have multiple different the enemies of your tribe. You band together with your enemy tribe to take out this whole wicked people that are slaughtering, eating, and mutilating everyone. It's like the enemy of my enemy kind of thing, but it's like it was so bad that they all teamed up. They didn't care. These freaking people are such a necessity that we have to exterminate them severely right now. And so there was a big long war in the Lovelock region of these Native Americans, just exterminating these giants until they were gone. And they said that they fled up the river more, and those tribes have legends of these giants, of these red-haired giants, of these black-haired giants. And you kind of have a little bit of that with the Wendigo. You have when the Algonquin language group, or the northern Midwest tribes and Canadian tribal groups, they have the Wendigo spirit, which can possess people. It's a spirit. It's not necessarily like an entity that's physically out there. It's more of a spirit that possesses a person because of evil acts like cannibalism most of the time, or a starvation and stuff, and cannibal, like cabin fever kind of comes into play. The Wendigo kind of a thing where, you end up cannibalizing people in a survival situation. But those Native Americans really feared bad winters, which led to increased Wendigo possessions, because a bad winter meant people are starving. So you would have Native American families who, or mothers or fathers who, when you came into the hut after a long winter, the mother is cooking up the kids, and they're, the parents have survived and they're eating the kids. This would be a Wendigo kind of incident. And there's a lot of different stories and stuff. Sometimes this Wendigo is brought to life by a witch or evil shaman. Usually an evil is the key word. Shaman or magic user. Sometimes it has an ice jewel in its chest that you have to melt the jewel or kill the jewel. Sometimes it's linked to a person or a baby. Even a baby can become a Wendigo. So when you finally kill the Wendigo, it melts all the way back down to this baby that was like left out into the wilderness because the family couldn't take care of it, or they're starving and stuff. It's a lot of different stuff, a lot of different weird stuff. The Cherokee have a stone golem kind of a story where it's, instead of an ice creature like the Wendigo with a ice jewel or crystal in his chest, this stone golem, this stone giant, basically has a jewel in its chest that a magical witch put into it and summoned it, that you have to destroy this creature. And this is in Native American legends and stuff. This isn't in European folklore, or the other side of the world stuff where they have golems and wizards and jewels and magical items and sorcery, and they're and all that stuff. So but one thing that is consistent with around the world with ancient traditions and stuff is spirits, evil witches, or just what we would say magic users, or people who are attuned to the nature or whatever kind of mechanism is working there. There is almost a distinct difference between a good, like a good shaman, and an evil shaman or an evil witch. You know, there's the emphasis on this evil witch putting a curse on the Native Americans, or an evil shaman who has to kill his mother and then don a pelt of an animal, can transform into an animal or transform into a dog man, um, or skinwalker and stuff. You know, it's a very evil entity. You know, it's evil acts, evil black magic. You know, but to be a shaman and stuff, that's just, it's a little distinctively different than an evil shaman who starts practicing this, what would you would say, black magic, which all cultures talk about, kind of this evil aspect of this witches and all this. And the Bible would say, you know, it's all evil and stuff if it's not from God. You know, um, so it's kind of weird and stuff when you look at Native American stuff and they talk about the evil witches, and they go look at tribes in Africa or Siberian tundra, or, you know, South America, or you go look at wherever ancient tribal people there, or wherever ancient sophisticated civilizations talk about evil witches, evil spirits, evil this, weird stuff, monsters, dragons, what we would know as dinosaurs now. I think Marco Polo talked about the emperor of the China, or the emperor, one of those emperors. His chariot was being pulled by dragons, which a lot of people have discovered, you know, maybe might be a specific kind of dinosaurs and stuff. There are other instances of knights and stuff killing dinosaurs that have modernly been discovered. You know, they call them dragons, but we have a description of, oh yes, this knight killed this dragon. It matches the exact dinosaur that is found in that region. There's a couple of different stories where the dinosaur that we found in modern times matches the description of the dragon that was supposedly slayed in that land back in the time. So it's very fascinating stuff. I just looked and seen a report out of I think it was Greece. I think I pretty much saved it, and we'll read. I'll read it real quick. Parthenon, Acadia, Greece, October 2007. It's the afternoon at the southeastern foot of the mountain. There's a source of pan or picnic area called Pinovik. I don't know. I'm butchering the crap out of that because I have no idea how to pronounce this Greek word or pronunciations and all that. But there's a towering upright rock where the stone shapes of a tunnel can be seen. During a recent hiking expedition in the nearby inaccessible cave of Pan, a girl had been left behind alone when she noticed 2 or 3 little hairy men, no more than a meter tall, observing her from behind rocks and hiding behind them. The little men had normal hair on their heads, a dark face, and body hair. They seemed to be making fun of her. The girl was so terrified that she could not scream, and moreover lost all sense of time, a typical characteristic of otherworldly experiences. That was the input of the person narrator. She regained her sense of time when something very strange happened. The ring she normally wore on her finger suddenly flew out of her finger at a considerable distance. When the other members of the hiking group, when the ring suddenly flew out of her finger, off of her finger, I guess should be more putting, at a considerable distance, then the hairy creatures disappeared. When the other members of the hiking group came upon her, they found her. She was terrified and crying. The reason I saved that and stuff is because, you know, over there they have where it's mentioned as Pan, kind of a mythological creature from not only Greece but other cultures where, this half goat, half man satyr kind of a thing. This Pan creature with usually a flute. This more modern time, this lady seen these small human creatures hiding behind a rock. If it was in North America, you might say, well, that looked like Sasquatch, or maybe even pugwudgies, little people that Native Americans would call. Give me a second, I gotta get a drink and cough my brains out. So so over there, it's kind of more like this Panis creature, these nymphs or these creatures. Not really sure, but if that same encounter happened in Washington or in North America, really, one would say, well, those were Sasquatches, but here they're hairy humanoids and stuff, and it's not really don't know what, but the area Pan, they have their own different mythological creatures and stuff, and the way they would say spirits or nymphs of the forest, spirits of the forest, and stuff like that. They wouldn't say, "Oh, those were Sasquatches or an undiscovered primate hiding over there." So when you go to different cultures around the world, and you talk about these things, they have different names for them, or just giants are usually just giants. Doesn't if they're hairy or not. Typically, they're just giants, and most cultures around the world typically depict giants as not so friendly creatures that don't coexist with humans very well. In fact, usually giants are bloodthirsty, ravenous, with ravenous hunger that have an appetite for people. And that's from all around the world. When you dive into giants and trolls and the different aspects of these wild men and these giants of the mountain, they eat people, they kidnap people, they kill people. In Hawaii, on some of these islands and even the main island, they will tell you the stories of the giants that can be seen even carrying torches and stuff. They'll be walking the trails in line, a line of them, a troop of them in a line, walking the trails, walking the mountains and stuff. And if you come across them, you know, you're supposed to disrespect yourself. You're supposed to roll around in your own piss and shit, basically your own piss, for them to, you know, not hurt you, kill you, kidnap you, and stuff. And they also are told that these are the same giants that will drown people in waters in the pools. And there's an old World War II sailor who was stationed on the island and stuff who went swimming and drowned. And supposedly one of these giants is the reason that he drowned. Could this big shadow seen floating up and drowning. And now there's a lot of mystical and like magical, they would say spiritual drownings and stuff are caused by these creatures. Not necessarily physically having to reach out and grab you, but they always are depicted as these giants that even have magical powers. And typically a lot of those different stories have these magical powers or some odd little effect that these creatures or giants can do. The pugwudgies, for example, and other small Native American small creatures and cryptids, little humanoids and stuff, typically had special powers of being invisible, or they had super strength when it comes to lifting up something that was huge and massive. But if you gave them like a little pencil or a crayon to lift up, they weren't able to lift that up with the superhuman strength that they could lift like a boulder out of the way, or they could hypnotize people or trick people, or basically make entrances and doorways appear that were camouflaged by magic and stuff that were always there, but they revealed themselves through this magical power that these little people have and stuff. So we're hour and 17. Kind of bummed that no one's coming on, and but that's okay. I didn't advertise and all that, so it's very fascinating with when it comes to giants and you talk about Sasquatch. There's actually a really good, I would say, a documentary. I think there's a History Channel one. It's called Giants, Friend and Foe, and then I'm pretty sure there's a YouTube version with a very similar name. And I can't remember. There's the other video of this guy giving a lecture and stuff, talking about giants. I have it saved somewhere, I'm sure, and showing evidence of giant bones and discoveries and archaeological digs and stuff like that. We might. I said we might. I don't know. You never know what can happen, but we might try to go in the woods tomorrow night. And go live and stuff. Maybe we'll go thermal hunting, but it depends on what happens. You never know. Might get a phone call and go do something else. Might get called into work. Who knows? So, but I like to, especially now But we got the conference coming up and stuff, so I'm kind of doing that, planning for that. Like I said, we're going to have a museum style kind of setup with lectures on the history and different kind of stuff, pictures and newspaper articles, clippings and stuff that you guys can see and all that. So casts, tracks, and all that. So hopefully we'll have some adventures when we go out camping. And then I'll be on the Untold Network show, Barnaby show. I can't. It always slips in my mind. But Barnaby, I'll be on his show the Monday after our conference and event. So hopefully something awesome happens. I can tell him some new stuff like that. So, but that was that's about it. I mean, unless you guys have some more comments and questions and all that. I mean, I was hoping someone would be joining up and all that, but I understand. Cool. I guess we could show some videos without YouTube getting all having a problem with it, basically sending me frivolous copyright claims and bullshit. It's just it is what it is. When you're not a big channel, that's what YouTube only cares about. They care about those big channels. They're getting lots of views and stuff like that. That's when they'll basically bow down to this or that, or they'll be more relaxed on the rules. And I know there's other channels and stuff that they show stuff, and I'm pretty sure they don't. Other Bigfoot channels that they don't get messed with. Oh yeah, there is one thing that I seen from Randy Harrington on Facebook is one thing he's seen that he kind of pointed out was a lot of people. Let me try to find it. Actually, I can just read it better. I'm not sure if he took it down, but yeah, I think he took it down. Yeah. Well. Anyways, there was, it seems like, a lot of people use Jeff Meldrum's. Maybe there were some people. some people that were using Jeff Meldrum's thing kind of to promote stuff, and like to promote their show and to promote a conference and whatever. And I think he kind of called it out a little bit, like he was sad seeing some of the people do that, and maybe they weren't even trying to do it on purpose, kind of a thing. But it's something that he noticed, and it's sad. It's that's what people want to do, try to promote themselves, and basically, oh, Jeff Meldrum hung out with me and stuff, and kind of like, oh, that's an approval kind of a thing, especially since he's gone. I think he mentioned that people have done that with Binganagel. I just forgot his name, but yeah, I don't know, man. I know I seen one post of a person who definitely didn't like Belgium. He wasn't. He didn't care. He didn't care about the news. Let's just put it as that. But anyways, I said what I thought about Meldrum stuff. It is lost and stuff, especially all the potential evidence and things he was working on. If it doesn't get saved and turned over to someone to put it to good use, it's like all the years of researching he did, all the files and all the stuff that he personally had. His work. If it gets all thrown or put in storage, what was it all for? If it gets up to the side, we don't get to see it, we don't get to use it, and so that's one of the sad aspects that I kind of worry about, and kind of assume it's going to happen because that's usually what happens. So usually, yeah, I don't think I'll be able to find the other one, but yeah, I mean, yeah, scrolling through some of the groups, Bigfoot groups on Facebook, and I mean, there's AI everywhere. There's fake bullshit people. There's people promoting people that are hoaxers, or it's like, okay, come on now. Gets a little it gets a little much when you look at all the stuff that I presume, or maybe I'm assuming, I hope not, because I don't want to be wrong, but at the same time, there's a lot of just funky bullshit stories. It's like, come on, man. Or just if there's people I've seen in the community that like every other day, every weekend, they have a new story or a new picture. Like I said, it's literally this big circled image of a Bigfoot, and I'm telling you, it's that big, the world's smallest Bigfoot. And these people constantly come up with pictures and stories and magical fairy tale stuff where if it was happening to that person all this time consistently, it's like you should be able to have something way better than everything you've been posting, because it's like it's ridiculous and stuff. And it's kind of like this topic where some people just believe, like on Nikki's show when they had this last show talking about Mike Patterson, his followers almost being like cult like in their belief of what's being shown and versus what evidence is being shown against that proves it's a hoax, it proves it's a mask and stuff. You have these followers, these believers that just won't stop. They will believe anything that's regurgitated, and it's pretty sad. You can't have a dialogue with them. You can't have really nothing because they really don't want to talk about it. And you see that a lot with these other groups. You can't even laugh. Can't use the laughing emoji because that's bad. You're being a troll. You can't have a discussion. You can't expose how wacky and just unbelievable, uncommon sense, that story, the scenario, whatever it is going on, because you're being mean, you're trolled, that's not here. This is a loving, safe space community. And when I hear that, oh, this is a safe space for people to tell their stories, I hear that and I say, oh, this is a safe space for people to lie and tell bullshit, and it's okay. That's what I hear. I understand that there needs to be a kind of a safe space for the actual people who are scared about talking about the Bigfoot encounter, because they work in a high end position. They can lose their job. They can become political. They become public. Whatever reason, they don't want to be made fun of. Blah blah blah. But the safe space from trolls and criticizing and questioning and that's a little much. I mean, that's some weird dynamic going on that we don't need, because you can't expose the bullshit con artist. You can't expose the bullshit story. You can't expose the fakeness. They're lying to your face. It's like all these people are so friendly and they're my friends and they're awesome, and yeah, but they're lying to your face every single time they tell you this bullshit story about Bigfoot at their house this last weekend. And they show you a picture of a fucking bush, and there's a pattern of two eyeballs in the bush that kind of resembles a face. So they're right. See, they're correct. It's like, but they're lying to your fucking face. Like, are they delusional enough that they believe those lies, or are they just, you know? I mean, I honestly think, some of these people who just put out this bullshit, do they believe it themselves, or do they know? And what do they think about all the other people that they're bullshitting? They're faking. You know, it's like, man, I can't believe I can make all these people fucking believe this bullshit. Like, how fucking stupid are they? There has to be some that think that. I mean, they can't all be delusional. There's some that probably, are not so, I said, nefarious in their thoughts when they're tricking people. But at the same time, when you're lying to someone about a story, I seen this flying dragon. It was pink and purple. I seen this flying dragon in the sky, and you have all these fucking people believe you. I mean, what do you think to continue to lie? Sorry, just coughing and get a drink because my throat's getting a little dry, a little tired. I'm stacking woods, putting up a sweat. Actually, give me a sec. Actually, I was throwing all the pieces of woods closer to the pile so we can stack them, so I can stack it tomorrow. A lot of wood, so do a two-step process. So, you take it 2 hours just throwing a pile from, moving the wood and stuff, because you got, well, it's pretty impractical to really do it any other way. So, spent 2 hours doing that before the show. uh, but yeah, so we'll probably go. I want to go live tomorrow night. We'll see, or sometime during this week. I'm just going to be doing it this week during the week. I know I've been trying to. It's a lot easier said than done, especially when you work 11-hour days, 10-hour days, or whatever. I just want to go to sleep. Sometimes I just want to go sleep. You know. Uh, yeah, it's hard, but a lot of the times, if you get out there, pretty good consistent about at least getting the recorders out there. I know I took you guys along for the ride this last time, so maybe we can always do some of that. at the very least, instead of spending a couple extra hours at nighttime, losing some sleep that way, get out during the daytime, set the recorder out, and get some live videos out there. Yeah, as you see, I'm getting tired and stuff, and it's way late. Way late for me. But no, actually, I think I'm gonna grab a bowl of cereal and stuff before I go to bed. I gotta wake up. I gotta get. We're gonna be doing 250 push-ups in the morning, and then we do another 250 push-ups sometime during the afternoon. So we'll do 500, and we'll be trying to do that every day. At least we'll get 250 minimum a day. That's what we try to do. Usually taking a day or two off. Usually the weekend, but I feel like doing it. But yeah, so the goal is 10,000 push-ups in the month of December. I think we're gonna just do more than that. We'll probably do as many as we can, but I am pretty sure, I am very confident that's what we're gonna be doing. Might even have a live stream where we try to pump out a couple hundred to 1,000, maybe. I don't know. Depends. I usually like to do them in the morning and stuff, so you guys aren't really. I don't think there's going to be many people up early in the morning to watch. So doing it live is when I preferably would like to do it. It's probably not going to be happening, but we will see. Yeah, save that for next time and stuff. We'll be talking about underground dwellings of Sasquatches, and we'll be taking a look at some other archaeological stuff, like the massive underground complex that they have in Turkey. I can't remember the exact name of it right now, but there's a massive underground bunker complex in Turkey with air shafts and stuff with what humans have done, and then we'll be taking a look at some of the ancient Neolithic tunnel systems throughout Europe, and they go across to Europe. Some of these ancient tunnel systems and stuff. Because I got a couple old newspaper clippings of Sasquatch digging dens and stuff, and some weird stuff, digging dens in like a graveyard, and I did see some other stuff that they were relating to some biblical stuff and maybe Nephilim kind of a things, and we might maybe we'll go into that in that episode too. And the thing I have to confirm about the Priest of Bray Road incident is if the dogman spoke something. I guess I don't really recall. It's been a long time, but apparently the creature spoke a specific word that some people relate to a biblical story with Jesus and stuff. But I guess we'll wait to the next live show and stuff when I can get the stories pulled up and have it ready to go. But we'll probably be showdowns since no one is talking in the chat. No one's want to show up and play and have fun and chill. That's fine. Yeah, I guess I'll have the link for the conference here in the description. It's a free event, like I said, so you really just have to show up. I just ask for people to register so I know who's coming, and that way you can email me, contact me, and I can give you basically the camp out information if you guys would like that. So that's basically what that's for. Heads up. Otherwise, you can show up at the event and talk to me about it. I can give you the place and call and reserve. There should be enough spots and stuff left over. at the primitive camping spot, at the very least. I'm not sure about the whole electrical camp up hookups because there are, um, um, and it's an equestrian spot, so there's a lot of RVs with horse trailers and stuff. They love to park on that side and get those spots with their whole setup that they need and they work with, and they set up little horse pens and stuff. So another reason why we're actually at this campground is because Sasquatches um, like or have an affinity towards horses or playing with horsehair, supposedly, and that kind of a thing. So we're another reason why we're there, and I like horses and stuff. So you might be able to get to pet some horses if you're there. You ask for permission, of course, first and foremost. But yeah, so and you never know because the last time we were there, we had this old couple that pulled up that were just checking out the campgrounds, weren't even there camping, and struck up a conversation of Bigfoot and relayed a Bigfoot story of a potential Bigfoot story. They thought it was a bear, but it had, seemed like a bear wandering around camp and stuff like that, um, huffing and. But it didn't walk like a bear and stuff. So, but they were older couple and stuff, and so you never know. You never know what can happen, especially when you're out in the woods. So, the more people, the more awesome it's going to be because depending on how many people, it could split off in different groups, or just have one big group, which is most likely what's going to happen. One big group will walk on a couple of trail systems at night, depending on how everyone's feeling, and no one gets left behind, kind of a thing. So, if anything, in some of the situations where I will stay behind with the person while the group gets assisted by someone else or is on their way out or whatever, I will make sure I'm with the slowest person if that's what's called for, you know, doesn't take away from me. I might even joke that you're not ruining my experience by me having to be out there with you being the slowest person for whatever reason, physicality or medical, or just being scared, terrified out of your wits that you just want to go back to the car. It's if you're scared out of your wits, I probably won't tell the joke, but you're not going to take anything away from me because now I'm going to use you as bait. Now we're by ourselves, and it's a different situation, than this whole big group that they're going this way. Now we're this situation, it might be more appealing to the Sasquatches to come closer to us. So I always a joke and say, there's always opportunity when you're in the woods, no matter what's going on. And sometimes you do need to help people, There's been times where, for whatever physical reason and just being a little older and stuff, they're a little slower and stuff. And, I have been on I have been on outings and stuff where a whole group of young men and many young women, but dogging on the men because here's this older lady who you're all leaving behind. Like you're all this like she's gonna be left behind in the dust. It's like, what are you guys doing? I'll just walk with her. It's like, uh, we'll be the slow little ones. It's more action for us at the. It doesn't bother me, but if you're all like, oh, we gotta go and gun ho this and go this way, and people will forget that you need to take responsibilities for the weakest link in your group or the slowest or the oldest and stuff because they can get hurt and stuff like that. So, what's up, Mr. Duffy? How's it going and stuff? Yeah, I remember you told me on one of these other streams and stuff. You revealed your identity to me. I'm sure you have a I'm sure you have a couple more profiles so you can interact and Cannibalism is eating at McDonald's. Some people would say that. I think there's some stories about that. if you did some testing at McDonald's right now, you might find some fecal mash, some poo poo in some of those stuff that you tested. Apparently, there's a lot of that that stuff going around, and when they tested like ice and stuff. They found some of that crap in there. And I don't eat at McDonald's. I don't. I don't eat that gut buster right there. It's bad. But I'll have a Taco Bell even though it's really bad. So there's a pretty good taste, but how much they cost that doesn't that usually keeps me away. But every once in a while I'll break down. I'll have some Taco Bell. But that's because that's back in the day, in the late '90s and stuff. They had the little Chihuahua, little Tino Taco Bell commercials and stuff. And they were freaking cheap tacos, and it didn't seem like it was fast food and all that bad at the time. You kind of grow up in that nostalgia stuff. So every once in a while, I'll have some. It's pretty good. But I typically don't eat fast food like that. I'll go to like a sandwich shop or a deli place, or just cook my own food because it's the fast food is just gut busting, man. Like if I had a McDonald's and stuff next morning, man, I'd be blowing up that toilet, and the shit would smell like a fucking nasty McDonald's smell that I would only come if I eat that. So it's like that tells you about something, dude. I just it's like it just doesn't seem good. It seems toxic as fuck. So I know it's a little graphic, but at the same time, man, it's like a little fucked up. Yeah, the Chihuahua dude, man, I loved it. Back in the day when they had the commercials, and there was a couple different dogs, but it was always Latino Taco Bell, and they were awesome, really good commercials and stuff. And then they switch logos and do all this and all that. But back in the day, that was way before party packs and stuff were even a thing. Go there with my mom, go there with my dad, and have some Taco Bell and stuff. But usually I like to go to like a nice Mexican family restaurant, and I'll order something from there. So that's typically what I try to get, especially a big nacho plate. I love nachos. I'm a big taco nacho guy. So, but nachos especially. Um, love getting some authentic, or sometimes you get the authentic white cheese and sprinkled cheese on there and stuff's really good. I like going different places, trying their food. Sometimes I don't like being disappointed, but like, man, this is this crap. Yeah, it's actually a tragic story what happened to the original Taco Bell dog. Actually, the owner had some mental issues, and actually took the dog and threw it into a wood chipper. Actually, is what the story goes. And then they replaced the dog, and eventually they just got rid of that mascot and marketing and stuff. But yeah, that's actually kind of a tragic ending. If you guys didn't know, sorry. I only know because we grew up on that. It was cool, and then like my dad told me eventually, that's what happened to him. It's like, oh man, that's horrible. People are just horrible like that. It's like, what the fuck, dude? Yeah. So I love Chinese food. I just went to a Chinese place yesterday after I got out of work. Well, I'm just gonna go there and eat at a nice buffet. All you can eat, multiple plates. Let's go. I usually get My plate consists of you know, Malaysian chicken, pepper chicken, spicy General Tso's chicken, a chicken on a stick. Uh, I got peanut butter chicken, sweet and sour chicken. Uh, I eat all the different kinds of. I love chicken and stuff, so I eat all the different kinds of chicken. My plate is just nothing but chicken from different places and spices and stuff. So yeah, love it. Love going to a Chinese. I guess the Chinese buffet is more American than Chinese and stuff, but I love it. It's pretty good. Yeah, every once in a while, it's definitely worth just pigging out on a couple plates of Chinese food because at least you get your money's worth. I'm a big fan of paying some decent price for good quality food or a lot of food. I don't like going to a place and paying $16 for a chicken sandwich meal that it's shit. I go on. There's a nice diner get to. It's like an $8 chicken sandwich and it's great quality, fills you up. Good quality hometown diner prices for good quality food. That you go to the hip bowling alley or that hip pizzeria and the pizza's like $50. That might be a little much, but there are places where it's almost $20 a slice. This one place, it's pretty expensive. It's like $12 at least for a slice of pizza. So like that ain't gonna fill me up. I'd be spending all my money trying to fill my ass up, especially if I just did a nice workout, man. I'll be starving. I'll be hungry. I gotta get some food. I love going to a nice buffet, good quality buffet, not one that's run down, and eating your money's worth. Eating a lot. That's why I love, making your own stuff at home because you can really, for the price point, you can usually get a lot more stuff. Typically, you have to buy in bulk, but you'll have leftovers to make other meals. But for the amount of money that you would spend at like a fast food place or at Taco Bell and stuff, you really, you know, doesn't fill you up as much as buying home grocery food you cook at home and all that. So I'm into that. I'm into like, if you're gonna spend money on food, it better be worth it and get your money's worth and good quality and quantity and stuff too. If you took me to a very fancy restaurant and you slapped down this little plate of this little square piece of meat and a little leaf on it, I'm probably gonna be like, dude, how much money is this piece of shit thing? Because it's like you've got to order 100 more to fill me up. I mean, I'm sure it's nice and tastes good and it's fancy, but it's like, you know what? Let's just spend the money and have a big Thanksgiving dinner and just get all fat for a week of food. I'd rather just do that than go to some fancy ass place and spend this more money than, and you really, are you really getting that full? That's my opinion. You can cook good, have excellent food at home for half the price you would at some of these crazy places. And, I think there was, I don't know. This one family went out to dinner. I mean, there was 7 people or whatever. It was like $100 per meal per plate. It's like $700 tab. It's like, whoa, what? You went out to eat with your family and it was $700. I mean, for an experience and all that, it's just like, is it worth it? Because like, I don't know. If you want to have a big ass feast, you're gonna spend $700 on a meal. You get a couple good meals out of it. Yeah. I guess that's the true judge, right? That's the final judgment. I think there's a couple good, you smell the food, I guess the pace, that's the first judgment, how food tastes, How do you feel afterwards? Give it heartburn and stuff. And then the final test, they give you that after heartburn, the afterburn, and all that. Mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Or like a good donut. There's not. I'm kind of picky when it comes to donuts for some reason. Uh, Actually, I think I know the reason. Actually, is because when I was little and stuff, all the time we'd get donuts. They'd be very good. Even at school, we had school donuts that we would get, whatever particular class. They were good, really good, hearty, quality, good quality donuts. And now Krispy Kreme, they're fucking trash. I don't care if people think they're good, they're fucking trash. That's not a good donut. Um, when they have these like cider mills and stuff in the fall, and here in Michigan, probably other Midwestern states, they have like cider mills and orchards that will open up. You can pick apples, and you can pick pumpkins and stuff, and it's like a fall little hangout festivals, and they make homemade donuts and shit there, and cider and stuff. The donuts are amazing, good. Not these Krispy Kreme shit donuts, not these little fucking crap. And so like now I'm kind of, there's a good Amish place over here that has great fucking donuts. And so, if you're gonna, I'll eat a donut if you give me it, if it's a Krispy Kreme or whatever. I'm not gonna be rude and say fuck this donut. But like, if you want a good donut, man, good Amish donut, they have good donuts at Quality Dairy actually here, because they get them from the bakery fresh every day. Yeah, yeah. Threw away a bad donut. Yeah, like this, you buy them in little packs and stuff. They're never that good. Um, I like a good glazed twist or glazed yeast donut. A good one. Bailey's, yeah, yep. Well, I mean, you're not in Michigan. I mean, I don't know. My boss, we could use another guy, another two guys, I guess. But yeah, yep. You gotta love dragging the brush to the chipper. We actually had a guy quit and stuff. Uh, I don't know. We don't really know the reason, but it's a hard industry. It's a hard job. Not everyone likes to do everything that needs to be done. Sorry, I'm sorry if that's annoying. There's the hair on there that's annoying me from a kitty cat. Um, yeah, I mean, I would say if it was the beginning of the season and stuff, you were in Michigan for sure. If you were in Michigan close by, I could get you a job if you cut it. Yeah, no, if you came on and stuff. Well, hey, everyone has their own opinion and stuff. I seen a different post giving their opinion about Jeff Meldrum and stuff, even though and they didn't like him. They had their own reasons and stuff. A little early and stuff. We might. We've talked about some of those reasons on this show, stuff with a particular person to the interviews and stuff like that. Just I think basically it comes down to gatekeeping and withholding evidence and pushing a false narrative compared to what the other person thinks is really going on and those kind of things. So, but it's whatever. You know, it's your own opinion and stuff, and it's nothing more than that. No one should get crazed over it or upset about it, or words or discussion or debate. Like we've seen what happened in the national spectrum. Debate is healthy. Debate is should be acceptable, whether you agree or disagree and things like that. You definitely don't need to take it to any extra levels of being anger or any more extreme levels than that. But yeah, yeah. So I don't know how we got talking about food, but I'm hungry. I am hungry. I actually didn't eat. I didn't have any dinner. Um, I didn't have. I thought I was gonna have a little bit more time to do the show, but I didn't really want to. I guess I should have and could have pushed it back tomorrow, but I didn't want to. I wanted to do it Friday night and stuff. Um, I just totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I didn't eat dinner. I got done doing the wood stuff, and then I went to the store and was like, I'll just jump on and start and eat afterwards. So that's what I'm about to do, especially talking about all this food. To answer your question, I have no idea, Mr. Duffy. I appreciate if you think I'm smart and stuff. I try to be smart enough to be able to come on here and sound like I know what the fuck I'm talking about because I'm pretty passionate about it. I've had experiences about this. I've read a lot of stuff, watched a lot of stuff, listened to a lot of History Channel stuff back in the day when it was good quality programming, back before it became a bunch of reality bullshit, whatever shows. And I mean, I love cars and watching, you know, car garages and finding, restoring cars, but I mean, that's not what History Channel was about. And, Pawn Stars or storage shit or whatever the fuck. You know, uh, a show I used to like watch back in the day, 2000 and tens, 2000 2000 teens was nat engineering disasters, or I think it was called like that or something like that. Engineering disasters, shit goes wrong, and because of engineering mishaps like Chernobyl and all this other crazy stuff, like some of the astronauts, cosmonauts that the Russians sent. I can't remember his name. He burnt up real bad and stuff. There were a lot of cool, interesting, awesome shows like that. Another one was, I think it was like Dead Man's Secrets or something. That was another interesting show. I think it was on History Channel. It might have been on some other program, but I enjoyed watching that kind of stuff, World War II stuff, cultural history stuff. So I can't say that school helped me get smart in this arena, but I can say my interest and passion in history and other things did. Yeah, now I don't really can't say I watch TV as in like local or cable and stuff. I watch internet stuff, internet news sources, and whatever I'm interested in, and because I don't like commercials. I never liked commercials back in the day, but I always enjoyed and do enjoy animal documentaries, and watched a lot of animal documentaries when I was younger. And Steve Irwin was an awesome guy to watch when I was younger, and used to watch a lot of Nature Nat Geographic documentaries and different places around the world. And but I always used to love watching cryptid stuff and lost unknown civilizations and lost treasures and things like that. And of course, Bigfoot was always one of those things a little closer to home that you could grab onto, go out and have an adventure and be close to, compared to, halfway around the world, buried under the sands or through the jungles or things like that. So Yeah, Bigfoot expedition. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we talked about that a couple of different times. I think I made Russell leave a particular Facebook group because I asked him a question about the first season, if it was fake and hoaxed, and why, and all this other bullshit. But anyways, it really doesn't matter because that TV documentaries and stuff. I mean, you got to play ball. You got to be politically correct. You can't be controversial. You can't. You can't post what you want to on Facebook. You can't really have free speech because the network and the people might not like it, or you might be replaced, or you might not even be able to get on TV because you're too controversial and all that. It's like, so you just can't be yourself. You have to be this straw man, this actor, this put me in a box and I'll play the role. You can't even be yourself. So I don't like that. I don't know. I haven't heard about the CGI to fake animal documentaries. I mean, I guess this will give some people to look at and see. I don't know. I haven't heard about that. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting, I guess, to see if it is kind of true and stuff like that, how they did it and all that, and what's going on. I know that when they make animal documentaries, they're not getting close to the animals. Typically, they're especially with big predators and dangerous animals. They have the big telescopic lenses, and they're nowhere near those animals. They're hundreds of yards away, getting the best shots. And here we are looking for Sasquatch, trying to basically stuff our cameras up its butt to get a picture. That's how close we are trying to getting to these creatures. And National Geographic basically would be as far as way as possible to get a clear picture of these same creatures. So I always find that just so funny. You know, if you're chasing after a bear like you would a Sasquatch, would you really be doing the same tactics and strategies? Would you really try to get that close? Most people would say no. But with Bigfoot, somehow it's safe, it's friendly. Just because you don't hear about official attacks and stuff like that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Doesn't mean, unfortunately, doesn't mean it won't be covered up. Why not? A lot of things are covered up all the time. In fact, it just came out that special forces did a mission in North Korea, I think, around the first Trump presidency. Special forces went over North Korea to, I can't remember exactly what they were going to do, but they crossing a river, swimming across the river, and they see a boat with a light coming on it. So they light the boat up. Come to find out, it's some civilians, so they abandon the mission and leave. Well, it just come out. That was classified. That was covered up. Oh, some civilians died. Well, you think we're just going to tell the truth? Only came out because some people are investigating this employer question. Like, I don't know the full story of how it came out and stuff, but I know it came out and they fucked up. That's usually what they'll try to do is dispose of the evidence and cover it up the best way they can, or they'll lie about it. I don't know if I should talk about this. I mean, I heard a story. Well, I was watching this guy who's a military guy. He says basically at a particular location where they were trying to recover bodies on a rooftop, these special forces guys um, told this soldier who wasn't special forces to stand guard at the bottom of the building in case anyone comes by. and they were going to go up and retrieve the retrieve the bodies. Well, they ended up chucking the bodies off the roof. The guy describes them hearing a splat and a cracking of bones, and then them filing and telling the family that they recovered the bodies as dignifyingly as possible. And what he is telling is no, they just chucked the fucking bodies off the roof. They didn't do it respectively at all. They lied in the report. So, you know, there's some of that going on too. They just lie, cover up stuff. They don't give a shit. I mean, it's complicated. It's a complicated issue. You know, it's just not a cookie cutter solution when it comes to cover ups, government agencies, and different agencies involved and different situations that happen. But there's a reason why the government of all the governments of the world don't come out and say, oh, yeah, there's Bigfoot. There's these. I mean, they talk more about aliens than they talk about Bigfoot. Although if Bigfoot was an alien kind of thing, I guess that would make more sense when they would talk about alien UFO stuff instead of Bigfoot because, well, technically they're a part of it, right? But I do find it odd that they talk about aliens and they show all these footage of that and stuff instead of Bigfoot and or some other cryptid creatures and stuff too. Yeah, I got trail cams that are up in trees facing down. I mean, I don't know. They just don't work. Seems like they just don't work for whatever reason. You know, if they're all Nephilim spiritual things, then it makes a lot of sense. Actually, everything would make a lot more sense of why everything's weird, paranormal, and spiritual. I mean, it'd make a lot more weird, but it'd just be kind of sad. It would take a lot of the fun. It would take all the enjoyment out of this. It would not be interesting to me at all anymore if it was a Nephilim spiritual kind of a thing. Then it truly is not a fun family activity at all. It would be quite the opposite. Never a fun, friendly activity. Quite the opposite. So I hope not. But there's a lot of weird things out there. There's a lot of you could be out there and encounter evil spirit that has nothing to do with Bigfoot. I do believe that in the wilderness. That happens in people's fucking houses, guys. Come on. You don't think that's going to happen out in the woods? It happens in your own fucking house, in this modern house that was built, 50 years ago. Why wouldn't it happen in those woods that are hundreds of years old, thousands of years old? And you should know how to protect yourself. And usually, I would say, invoke the name of Jesus Christ as your savior and stuff. And it seems like a lot of stuff fears that name, like aliens and ghosts. And there's reports of Bigfoot fleeing at the very name. A little weird. A little bit weird if it's just a flesh and blood ape that would have no understanding of that. Or aliens who come from a different galaxy, universe, or planet who shouldn't or wouldn't even know what that would mean. But yet, when you invoke the name of Jesus, these aliens and the spacecraft all of a sudden stop abducting people and vanish. Are they alien or are they something else? It's a little weird. That is probably the weirdest aspect of the alien abduction thing is when you invoke the name of Christ, what happens? Because if they're technologically superior, why would that have any effect on them? Why, little weird. It's a little weird, It's definitely a little weird. So, but it's been 2 hours, guys. We're going to shut the show down and stuff because everyone's being a party pooper. Not really. I mean, I enjoy everyone's who's just watch, supports. I appreciate the people who commented and kept the chat interesting. I hope next time we have a uh, open mic, chill live stream that other people can come on, talk, have a friendly discussion, maybe get a little rowdy with Mr. Duffy and stuff back and forth, but at the same time have a fun, interesting discussion. There's no need to go crazy and get mad and get hiccups. Be at each other's throats. So, so yeah, with that, I just want to hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. I might see you tomorrow night. I'm not sure. Have a good weekend regardless. Spend time with your loved ones. Work on yourself. Do new things. Have fun. Appreciate the people who are in your lives because you never know if or when they might not be in your life. So take the extra time to spend with them and all of that. Um, yeah, and may God bless each and every one of you. And I will see you on the next live show, which hopefully will be sooner rather than later, but no guarantees on that. But I do appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch this and spend their time listening to me. I hope to bring you guys better and more videos and stuff. I know I have been slacking off ridiculously on actually having just regular videos being pumped out and stuff. It's not you guys. It's me. It really is me. But I hope to slowly have these videos trickle out and stuff. I think you guys hopefully will enjoy some of that. Just be patient. Um, so with that, we're out of here.